I'm absolutely delighted to be here with so many global thought leaders who share a commitment for shaping a better future for people and for the planet. Today, I want to talk about the power of purpose, what it means, how it's a force of change in the corporate world, and how it's impacting Campbell. Today, we're reimagining Campbell's future with purpose at the top of our strategy. We are doing this to deliver sustainable, profitable growth and a sustainable value chain. We live in a complex, ever-changing world, and it's often difficult to recognize a revolution when you're in the midst of it. But it's clear that the food industry is being transformed right before our eyes. And in my entire career, which has spanned 40 years, I've never seen an environment quite like the one we're operating in today, fraught with serious challenges, but tremendous opportunities. Early in my tenure as CEO, we identified and embraced what I call the seismic shifts that are driving this revolution in food. And today these shifts are converging and accelerating. Consumers are rapidly changing. And even more important, their wants are rapidly changing and rapidly expanding. We're seeing major cultural shifts driven by global socioeconomic and demographic changes. Consumers' interest in fresh food is expanding, and digital technology continue to alter how consumers share opinions and how they shop for food. These shifts present risks that we must mitigate, but they also offer immense opportunities in areas such as sustainability and transparency for Campbell. At Campbell, we believe that we have responsibilities not only to our shareholders, but also our employees, our consumers, our customers, and our communities. Great brands and great companies understand that consumers expect us to make and do things that matter and align with their values. Consumers expect brands to be socially responsible, serve a purpose in their lives, reflect their desires and beliefs, and make a sustainable difference in the world. For nearly 150 years, Campbell has made food and experiences that connect our consumers to each other and to the world around them. And we know now that more than ever, they want us and companies like ours to be authentic and transparent. When I look at winning brands and companies, they have one thing in common: a clear and singular purpose that makes them unique, that serves as a filter to make decisions, and a set of beliefs that define who they are, what they stand for, and what they mean to you. To me, it's no coincidence that purpose-driven organizations are the best performers. A study by Millward Brown confirmed that the top 50 growth brands are more likely than their competitors to be purpose-driven. Notably, these top 50 brands collectively outperformed the S&P 500 by more than 400% over the past 10 years. Many of the iconic companies we most admire are driven by a sense of purpose. Think about the brands you admire. Maybe a brand like Patagonia or Plum Organics. Brands like this are driven by their purpose and a set of belief. At Campbell's, our purpose is real food that matters for life's moments, and we've captured our set of beliefs. We believe in the power of food to connect people. We believe that food should be delicious, affordable, and accessible, all three without compromise. And we believe that we have a foundational duty to give back and invest in the future, a duty to protect the earth, a duty to support our communities, and a duty to the people who bring their talents through our doors every day. Over the years, these beliefs have helped our family of brands keep a special place in people's lives, and that's a lot of people. Because in the US alone, we are found in more than 90% of households. When I started my career with Procter & Gamble, consumers cared about three things: quality, price, and value. These are still very important, but today, consumers are placing social purpose at the top of the list. Before making a purchase, these consumers want to know if the business or the brand is a force for good, and whether the company shares their values. For example, in 2012, US Yankelomish Monitor survey found that 63% of those surveyed agreed with the statement that by choosing to do business with companies that are more socially responsible, I can make a difference in the world. So let's talk about Campbell's purpose. It represents the single most important cultural change we have implemented at our company. And we implemented this 2 years ago. It has been the catalyst for resiliency. Our purpose defines why we exist. It defines the higher order reason for our work. It's what differentiates us in our industry. And I say it's inspirational, aspirational, and perspirational, because we have a lot more work to do. But it's holding our company and our brands and our more than 18,000 employees to a higher standard. And that's our North Star. Our purpose is captured in 7 words: real food that matters for life's moments. It is the integration of these concepts, real food that matters for life's moments, because there's meaning behind each of these words. And that's what makes it so powerful and so uniquely Campbell. And this purpose was something that's carried around in people's hearts. I put together a team 2 years ago, cross-business, cross-company, and set them out to find that what people were carrying around and how to articulate that. And they did a really, really good job. And this, I'm telling you, has been such an amazing force of adrenaline in our company and has given us the courage to change. So let's look at each one of these. First, real food. We've always made real food for real people, and consumers trust us to provide food and drink that is good, honest, authentic, and flavorful, and made with ingredients that are grown, prepared, or cooked with care. People love that our food fits their real lives, fuels their bodies, and feeds their soul. They appreciate knowing what goes into our food and why, so they can feel empowered about the choices they make for themselves and their loved ones. Our purpose is built on a foundation of standards that we must always uphold, putting safety above everything else, because if we don't, nothing else matters. And craft every product around the lives of the real people who rely on it. Delicious, readily available, and at a fair price. Be open and honest about the food we make, transparent about our ingredients and processes, and inclusive in our engagement with the stakeholders that care. And more important, never stop looking for ways to improve the ingredients, taste, quality, and accessibility of our food. These words were handcrafted, and we know we're not all the way there yet, but it is driving a different conversation about our food at Campbell's. Instead of talking about shipping cases, we're talking about what's in the food, where it's grown, where it comes from. Are the ingredients good ingredients? And I'm telling you, it is driving a resilience that I never anticipated. So second, let's talk about that matters. At Campbell, we believe that what we do every day matters. Families of all kinds rely on our foods, and our employees rely on us for a challenging and supportive workplace. Our customers rely on us to meet the needs of their consumers profitably. Communities rely on us to thrive, and our shareholders rely on us for solid, sustainable returns. We make the biggest impact on all these groups when we set and meet high goals as a business and as good stewards of the natural resources we all share. At Campbell, we seek to leverage our strengths as a food company, unleashing our boldest ideas to make the biggest impact. For instance, we depend on sustainable agriculture, clean water, and a resilient supply chain to produce the crops and ingredients needed for our food. Many of you may not think of us as farmers, but with the acquisition of Bolthouse Farms, we are the largest carrot grower not only in North America, but in the world. Many of our tomatoes come from generations of family farmers who have been in our network for more than 100 years. We strive to support these farms and family farmers, and they in turn, year after year, continue to help us serve our consumers who rely on our products for their own moments that matter. And both our carrots and tomatoes are grown right here in the state of California. We have a responsibility to drive sustainability across our value chain from field to spoon. And to that end, Campbell is on the forefront. We're making progress towards the goal we announced in 2010 of cutting the environmental footprint of our product portfolio in half by 2020. We use 1 billion fewer gallons of water per year than we did in 2009. And over the past 5 years, we've achieved a cumulative reduction in water use of 3.7 billion gallons and a cumulative reduction in greenhouse gas emissions of more than 440,000 tons. We're promoting the adoption and expansion of renewable energy sources by constructing solar fields, including a 60-acre solar field at our largest plant in Napoleon, Ohio. Another solar field opened last month at our Pepperidge Farm bakery. Beginning in 2011, we adopted new goals and targets to address sustainability in our agricultural supply chain. In 2012, we deepened our commitment to sustainable agriculture by pledging at the Walmart's Sustainable Product Expo to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and water use by 20% for our 5 key agricultural ingredients, help achieve zero net deforestation, and source certified palm oil by 2015. In 2011, we relaunched our agricultural sustainability program for Campbell. And since then, we have worked with Campbell tomato farmers to implement the largest known data set on processing tomato sustainability metrics. Last year, following Campbell's lead, 5 tomato processors used the same metrics to pilot an industry-wide sustainability metrics data collection program. The Campbell program has achieved national recognition in the field and is considered a leader in measuring agricultural sustainability. In addition, the program has delivered a reduction in water per ton of tomatoes harvested by 8% in 3 years. We are expanding those learnings to carrots, potatoes, celery, and jalapenos. At Campbell's tomato processing operations in Dixon and Stockton, California, we reduced water use per ton of tomatoes processed by more than 25% from 2010 to 2014. This has become a critically important issue as we work to find ways to mitigate the impact of the drought. These systemic improvements also benefit our bottom line and the bottom line of our grower network. Last year, we also advanced a partnership with a major customer, supplier, and the Environmental Defense Fund addressing fertilizer efficiency in wheat and associated rotation crops. Reflecting our purpose and a commitment to community resilience, we are also investing $10 million over 10 years to measurably improve the health of young people by promoting better nutrition and physical fitness, and to expand access to fresh foods for children in our hometown in Camden, New Jersey. Camden is one of the most challenged cities in the United States, and we've helped to create 40 healthy corner stores. There were none 5 years ago. In a city with only one full-service grocery store, these new healthy corner stores represent more than 30% of the city's formal food web. Those stores have introduced hundreds of new healthful products and improved economic performance for their operators. We're also enabling more than 100,000 hours of structured physical activity and close to 30,000 hours of nutrition education for young people and their families. Our Healthy Communities collective impact model has been recognized globally for its effectiveness, and we're expanding the framework to other Campbell communities in Connecticut, Ohio, and Washington State. I believe that if you can do this in Camden, New Jersey, there's no excuses. You can do it anywhere. Our purpose is also driving our go-to-market and business expansion strategies. Our acquisitions of Bolthouse Farms, Plum Organics, and Garden Fresh Gourmet are great examples. We acquired Bolthouse Farms in 2012 to meet the needs of consumers who want fresh or healthier foods. Bolthouse Farms is an innovative producer of fresh carrots, premium juices and smoothies, and refrigerated salad dressings. Bolthouse Farms is inspiring the fresh revolution as a brand with purpose. It's dedicated to making the healthy choice the easy choice. We're under construction, okay? Through Bolthouse Farms, we've worked with the First Lady, Michelle Obama, and her Let's Move campaign to combat obesity and encourage kids to eat more fruits and vegetables. And we've supported the FNV campaign to make fruits and veggies cool for today's youth. We also acquired Plum Organics, a leading brand of organic foods and simple meals for infants and young children. Plum has a loyal following among young parents who value the brand's purpose. Plum Organics was certified as a B Corp when we acquired it. And within a few months of closing on the purchase, we created a new paradigm and business approach by incorporating Plum as a public benefit corporation on the first day the law went into effect in Delaware. This is another first for Campbell's. Plum was the first public benefit corporation created as a subsidiary of a US-listed publicly traded company. Earlier this year, we further expanded our reach in the fresh foods aisle with the acquisition of Garden Fresh Gourmet, a maker of fresh salsa and hummus, and it's another example of how we're leading with our purpose. I'm really proud that Bolthouse Farms, Plum Organic, and Garden Fresh Gourmet are purposeful brands that are also helping Campbell's attract new consumers and be part of the moments in their lives. As I mentioned earlier, our purpose is 7 simple words: real food that matters for life's moments. These words have had a profound impact on Campbell, on our food, on the role we play in people's lives, and on the actions we need to take to live up to this lofty aspiration. Our purpose has fundamentally altered how we think about our food from farm to spoon, from how our food is grown and the ingredients we select, to how we separate our food, how we prepare it, and the types of brands we want to add to our portfolio through acquisitions. And today, we're talking, thinking, and acting differently about the food we make. For instance, our R&D teams talk about recipes and cooking instead of formulas and processing. It's an important beacon for us in a world where consumer skepticism is on the rise. With this distrust, consumers are holding food manufacturers more accountable, and they are rightly demanding greater transparency about how and where their food is made, which ingredients are used, and how those ingredients are produced and sourced. Over our 146-year history, Campbell and our family of brands have earned people's trust, and we welcome this era of transparency as a new opportunity to connect with consumers. We know the people that buy our foods have come to hold us to a higher standard, and we welcome being held to this higher standard. That's our character as a company. Exploring the implications of company purpose has given us vital insights about how we can transcend these changes. Our purpose has created the conditions for Campbell to become increasingly open and honest about the food we make, with the goal of setting the standard of transparency in the food industry. We're offering on-target products that include organic Campbell soups, refrigerated beverages, salad dressings, and of course fresh carrots from Bolthouse Farms and organic baby food from Plum. And last year, we initiated a transparency journey to increase consumer trust by providing greater access to information about our products, especially in our core U.S. soup, sauces, and beverages business. We have a new website. It's www.what'sinmyfood.com. And we provide detailed information for several of our top products, including our iconic Campbell tomato and chicken noodle soups. Over the next year, we intend to include all of our major products in the United States and Canada, and we have subsequent plans to expand this globally. Through this engagement, we will better explain the reasons for our choices and use feedback from stakeholders as valuable input to guide our future decisions about our food. We anticipate that this approach will accelerate meaningful changes in our food. For example, we plan to eliminate artificial colors and flavors from many of our North America products by the end of fiscal 2018. These are critically important steps with far-reaching implications that will strengthen our relationships with loyal consumers, rekindle connections with people who have long loved our brands but found other alternatives, and establish new connections with new generations of consumers. As you can see, we're leveraging our company purpose as a filter for decision making and as a tool for greater transparency about the food we make. That transparency supports a resilient supply chain, starting with sustainable agriculture, and resilient, healthy communities where we live and work. I was excited to see in September that countries around the world adopted a set of global sustainable development goals proposed by the United Nations. Many of their goals, such as zero hunger, good health and well-being, sustainable cities and communities, and responsible consumption and production, are areas where we are already passionately active. We also engage in large-scale public-private collaborations, including philanthropic foundations, government agencies, customer partners, community groups, and we want to have improved farming practices in hundreds of locations. Again, to benefit both from our farming partners and our loyal consumers. I'm proud to be serving as the co-chair of the Global Consumer Goods Forum as we focus our priorities around the world on deforestation, food waste, and social sustainability in our supply chain. Our commitment to sustainable agriculture is literally part of our roots, and it's something we care deeply about. And it requires a great deal of resilience to permeate that mindset through every part of our business. Now, since we're being transparent, I have to tell you that hasn't always been easy. I remember when we were considering the acquisition of Bolthouse Farms, which we paid $1.5 billion for, and this acquisition was literally the largest acquisition in our history. But I remember getting lots of skepticism And I can't tell you how many people said to me, carrots, Denise, really? And I said, no, packaged fresh. It's a $12 billion category growing at 6 to 7%. It required leadership and it required resilience to really see where the consumer was going and to put your money where your mouth is. So when you look at Campbell, we're not too big and we're not too small. We like to think of ourselves as the biggest small company. We're fundamentally different than other companies that comprise the food sector today. I say we have the challenger mindset and the soul and agility of a startup. However, we possess the scale, assets, and capabilities of a larger corporation. And putting those two together enables us to bring delicious, nutritious, affordable food at a good price to people. So when you think of it, it's not very different from our entrepreneurial roots in Camden, New Jersey, where we were founded by entrepreneurs in 1869. As a result, Campbell is positioned very differently. We're based on who we are, what we believe, and that special place our brands hold in people's lives, and above all else, our commitment to our purpose. So in the end, I believe that a resilient company relies on resilient leaders. And what does that mean? It may sound overly simple, but leaders have to lead from the front. They must have the character, competence, teamwork, and the courage to take a stand, to set the vision and the agenda and get their teams engaged, truly excited and emotional about the journey and their role in it. I recently challenged members of my global leadership team to push themselves even further to lead by example. I'm holding them accountable to be visible among their teams, to drive a high-performance culture of resiliency, and to actively help their people manage through the seismic shifts in our world. So here is the call to action to all of us in this room. Now is the time for all leaders to encourage and enable their teams to become the high performers we all want to be. The teams that will be ideally positioned in their organization for a bright and resilient future, that lead with an unwavering sense of purpose to withstand and triumph over any and all the winds of change, however fiercely they may blow. At Campbell, we need to make food for both the current and future generations, and we need to keep our corporate citizenship strong. We do that by bringing our foundational purpose to life in our operations, in our branding, in our communities, and in every moment that matters. We are making progress, but I humbly say to you, we have much more to do. I want to thank you again for this opportunity. As the leader of Campbell's, I know we can make a profit and make a difference. And I'm personally committed to modeling resiliency in our business and through our leaders, driven by leading with purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Choose your share.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Denise.
You're welcome.
Covered an enormous amount of territory, and we're going to go over all of it again.
Okay.
So many big questions and big ideas in what you talked about, and maybe you'll start on the side of sustainable agriculture. So I mentioned in my introduction that, you know, from my perspective and our perspective, the food business is notable for owning or being impacted in a really serious way most of the issues that we work on, all at the same time. And you described your own version of the perfect storm, to which you added shifting consumer preference and other things. Sustainable agriculture is also a term about which, you know, 20 years of conferences and innumerable papers have argued, what is it? What is sustainable ag? You have implied a vision of what it is, and I wonder if you could say more about what it is. Because I got from a spirit from what you said that it is about sustainability, what I call sustainability for the rest of us, which means not just an experimental farm, not just one organic brand, but a broad system, which is more sustainable.
Yeah.
But say more about how you approach that, please.
Well, it is a broad term, and it encompasses a lot of different territory. But I think at the core, I mean, we want to have an agricultural system that feeds large groups of people, but also has reverence for the land and being responsible about the natural resources that are entrusted to us. At the same time, recognize that we've got to keep our farmers healthy and supported and growing so that they can continue to grow the food that we need to feed the world. So I see it as, a very big systemic issue, but I also see it as one farm at a time. And so I guess that juxtaposition makes it a pretty interesting issue to tackle.
Absolutely, and one of the things that you said and was also implied in your remarks about the Campbell approach is it's clearly a partnership approach with growers.
Yes.
And people in our community will recognize, a lot of the focus of companies and other organizations in this room for the past couple decades has been to get our arms around supply chain impacts and to have big business, often in the form of the big buyer, play a role in incenting, requiring, demanding better practice. Food, again, is notably different in a way for it seems very obvious that this is not one of those problems where say we're going to set a standard and we're going to push it on our supply chain. What you talked about sounded more like partnership with growers for the benefit of, say more about how that actually works. That's not just a code of conduct, thou must deliver to us. What do you actually do with the growers to help them get there?
I mean, there's lots of declarations, but behavior trumps everything. And if you think about the supply chain as grow, buy, make, move, sell, consume, it's really a value chain. And all across that value chain, in order to have an impact, I know I personally believe, and the leaders at Campbell's personally believe, in the power of partnership. And we have, in the past several years, found I guess the whole being greater than the sum of its parts, when you can bring public-private partnerships together and tackle an issue and set goals and hold yourself and others accountable for those goals. I really do believe in that formula for success.
So interesting and also a big challenge to scale. Say a bit, because it's a much more engaged approach. It is partnership. It requires a lot of resource. You talk about public-private partnerships. I wonder if you could say a little bit more about the role, what you see as your role as an advocate for that kind of partnership. What do other sectors need to step up and do together with the business to make this something that is covering millions and millions of acres and really taking a big bite out of the challenge?
I think the best way to bring that to life is literally the story about healthy communities in Camden, where, as I mentioned in my talk, we committed for a very long period of time, 10 years, to tackle obesity. 40% of the kids in Camden are obese. And they had cut nutrition education in the classroom. There were no safe places for the kids to play. So the team, and I personally got involved with this, we partnered with the mayor, the governor of the state, Rutgers University, Cooper Hospital, the YMCA, the United Way, and many others that put together a very comprehensive program around better nutrition and food in and better exercise and calories out. And with the hope that over the long term, we could make a dent in teaching both the kids and their parents about a healthier lifestyle. And then we ran into the problem that there was no healthy food. I mean, I talked about the fact they had one grocery store. So really understanding that the way people shopped in Camden were these little stores, and they were predominantly loaded with snacks and soda. And so making sure we made the food accessible and affordable, the healthier food, so that the kids would have a choice. And I remember I brought my leadership team over to a school. We would do we're doing a volunteering week, and we served the kids lunch. And they had a little bowl of soup, and they had a healthy sandwich and some goldfish, of course, and a little V8 juice. And one little girl said to me, "This is a 4-star lunch." I mean, these kids are hungry. And when they're hungry, they eat whatever they can get their hands on, and it's often not a good choice. And so it really hit home to me. One little girl had never tasted a blueberry. I thought that was really sad. And so it's a personal thing, but it's also something that has engaged our Campbell employees unbelievable. But the impact this is making has been so pronounced that there are other communities now starting to put this in place. And Dave Stangus, who's here, Kim Fortunato, who have led this work, speak all over the place. We don't want this to be a competitive advantage. We want this to be contagious, because if we can do this one community at a time and really build it out, but Campbell's could never do this by ourselves. It takes that public-private partnership to really make the impact.
So to that point, I was going to ask you about the corner store program because it's fascinating. What have been the results in terms of business? Are these corner retailers doing so well that this sort of catches fire in the market, or is this something that still needs sort of seed support and to prove out and work out the economics over time? How do we go to hundreds of these stores?
It's early days, but the healthy food that they sell has been good for their business too. Okay. And so, there are going to be things that sell better than others, and retailing is very resilient. They will make sure that they offer food that people want to buy. But I think so far they've been pretty pleased with the program.
Great, super. So I want to shift gears and talk about leadership internally. And you had a little snippet in your story about really carrots. So that's one story. There's a number of things you put in place where I can imagine the initial internal conversation might have been a tough one. One that jumped out at me based on our broader experience is transparency. Mm-hmm. The idea that we're going to take literally the secret sauce and enumerate it on the website must have been a conversation that elicited just a little bit of skepticism when you first brought it up. How did you get people over it? What did they need to believe, aside from the boss wants it? Yeah. What did they need to believe that that was a good idea?
I think it really does start with the purpose. And you could knock me over with a feather with how that purpose has changed Campbell's. And what it's produced this emotional connection that our people have to it. And I mean it, we are not all the way there yet, but we are on a journey. And part of that journey is really listening to our consumers and what they want. Consumers want to know what's in their food, and they have the right to know what's in their food. And so we want to respond to that. And what that has created is a different conversation about our food at Campbell's. And it's simple. How can you be real food if you have artificial flavors and colors? So that made that decision pretty easy. Maybe harder to do, but I had no problem getting people to understand, the essence of what was being decided there. And we're knitted by our values at Campbell's, and so I believe that there is a real sincerity on the part of not only the leaders but the entire organization to earn consumers' trust every day. We take that very seriously.
Terrific. So I have more, including the Sullivan sisters and related, but I want to give our audience a chance to get into this first, and I'll save those. So please, questions, comments for Denise, and we should have hands up. We should have mics running around the room. Up here, 2 up here, fantastic. And do a favor, please. I know we haven't asked this, but tell us who you are in addition to asking your question, please.
Hi, Rose Perkins from Dow Chemical, and we're big fans and supporters of the Campbell Soup Company. Yeah. And thank you for a great presentation and for all that you're doing in this space. Wanted to just ask a bit about the whole food waste issue and if Campbell's is involved in any programs, initiatives to address the horrific problem of food waste globally.
Mm-hmm. There is definitely a huge issue with food waste, and it's been recognized not only in the United States, but it is one of the commitments that the Consumer Goods Forum is also taking on under my leadership. And I think that having the industry really conscious of that, we don't have all the answers. I think we have a really good understanding of the issue. Here's where it hit us personally at Campbell's. We have an initiative right now that we're working on called Just Peachy. And what happened was we found 800,000 pounds of peaches in the state of New Jersey that were going into landfills because they were a little bit blemished. There was nothing wrong with the peaches other than they probably wouldn't have been bought in a produce section because they just didn't look good. So we did a partnership, and we collaborated with the Food Bank of New Jersey, and we got a list of suppliers in our supply chain to give us pro bono jars and labels, et cetera. And through the good work of Dave Stangus and his team, we had our pilot plant make these peaches into salsa, peachy salsa. And so Just Peachy went to market, and the profits from Just Peachy went to the food bank. So here's a situation where we took food waste, we made a product that people would buy, and then we gave the proceeds to help hunger. So that's a good story.
It's a great story. I think we had another up here.
Hi, I'm Tamara Arsenault with Global Communities, and we work with smallholder farmers around the world. And I'd just be interested, we heard about the farmers in California, but I'd be interested to hear any insights about your more global supply chain, particularly where those chickpeas come from.
Yeah, I'm probably not the one to comment on that. Most of our ingredients are procured and farmed in the United States. Most of them in the state of California. We will source some other ingredients, predominantly for some of our soups, mostly the meats, and from other places in the world. The only thing I can say is that we want to hold our suppliers to the same kind of standards that we have, so that we can, again, with this transparency, you want to make sure you're behaving your way all the way through the supply chain from where you procure it to where you make it.
Great, thank you. Another hand here.
Hi, David Barish, Vermont Energy Investment Corporation. Thank you so much. Having roots in Camden, my grandfather being an entrepreneur there in the 20s, I'm particularly appreciative and fabulous presentation.
Thank you.
I wonder if you could address the thorny issue about GMO labeling and how you think about that and the pluses and minuses of that and some of the conversations in the context of the consumer transparency piece.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, that has obviously been a big issue in the country. For me, the issue's been more about state-by-state regulation than having a national solution. And when you run a business where you're supplying food nationally, and each state would require a different labeling, it's hard to supply. I mean, I don't even know the answer to that. And so I've been very much in favor of a national solution. However, I've also been very clear that I support the consumer's right to know what's in their food. And on this website that we have, what'sinmyfood.com, we actually talk about all our ingredients. And it's a fact, for example, that 90% of the corn, soy, and beet and canola crop in the United States has GMOs. And it's just hard to find those ingredients. And so what we do in our products is we'll call out where those particular products are used, talk about GMO in that context, and then also basically say that the balance is non-GMO. And we do have products that are non-GMO for consumers who really are purists in that respect. So, I think that we've tried to be as comprehensive about the issue as possible.
I'm going to take a Twitter question just to prove that I can and that you should submit them. and I'm particularly going to take us, I don't understand it, and I'm hoping Denise does. Does Campbell's have a position or opinion on vertical farming?
Is vertical farming like what you saw?
Like vertically integrated?
No, I think it's vertical, like growing in almost like lab growing, isn't that what it is? Like
Someone's nodding.
I don't.
So what do you think?
Well, obviously I haven't thought that much about it because I was trying to describe it. I really don't have a position on it. I like horizontal farming, dirt, farmers, tractors, the whole thing.
Right. Great. I'm gonna, one more there. If we can get a mic to the center back. Thank you.
Pete Sherrard with Duke Energy. You are a CEO who obviously gets social responsibility. We have one too, Lynn Good. So what words would you have for CEOs who you don't see behaving similarly, who may not quite get that corporate social responsibility is key?
And I'm sure there's a number of them out there. I think it's really important to connect social responsibility to good business. And for me, business isn't just about, like I said, making a profit. It's about making a difference. And those two can live in the same neighborhood. So I actually think that if you have a CEO, even in your organization, that you don't think gets it, maybe there's some stories or education you could bring to that leader to open their eyes. Because I think it creates a really great environment in your company when people care. And because if they care about their communities and their environment, and they care about their products, then they're going to care about the company, and they're going to care about themselves and their performance in the company. And so, my hope is that, you lead through example and more people will see the light.
So I want to build on that question, but turning it around a little bit. We have plenty of companies in the audience who have CEOs who are not quite there yet. So what words of advice would you have to people, change agents, would-be change agents, who are trying to get the boss on board? And maybe there's a part of your own journey where people were bringing this to you before the company committed. And I would say probably the majority of our companies are in that kind of a situation.
A lot of the ideas in our sustainable agriculture or in our healthy communities were not things that came out of my office. They came from the people. And yet, and these people had literally the courage to stand up and say, look, we've got some ideas on how we can go after problem solution, and why this would be good for Campbell's. And, yes, you have to, as a CEO, I believe you have to have an open mind and listen as much as, make the decisions to run the company. But, I think having the courage to educate and lead in your companies and get your senior leaders on board, get some advocacy and sponsors for the work you believe needs to be done is a very big idea. That has a multiplier effect. It's not just one person at the top telling you what to do. It bubbles up from within the organization, and then you just have to make sure you've been heard.
So another question in from the audience via Twitter that I thought would come at one part or another, living here in California.
Yeah.
What about the drought? You indicated just a lot of ingredients come from here, so this is a material one. How nervous are you? What are we doing?
It's been a very big issue, and I'm hoping with El Nino we get a snowpack this year. But how we've managed through it is we've done yeoman's work and trying to be much more responsible about our water, and making sure that we because we, especially with the carrots, I mean we wash the carrots with lots of water, and so making sure that we are working in a loop system with that, and that's been very helpful. It has affected our cost of carrot, and we have aquifers underneath our farmland that we've had to draw water from, and it's just costing us more to get that water out of the ground because the levels are so much lower. And so we've navigated through a lot of these things, but the other thing, unfortunately, we've had to do is also diversify our growing into some other areas in the United States so that we take a little bit more of the pressure off of California. So that's what we've done to deal with it.
And another question that came in, one of the things that we hear a lot in our work through our companies with growers affecting the farm community, talk about demographics. Mm-hmm. A major turnover is and I can't remember the number, maybe you know it, the percentage of farmers who are 60 years old or older. One of the people in the audience had the question, are there any programs that you know of that you're promoting, encouraging younger people to get into it or to stay in it?
I mean, I think actually, quite frankly, there's more work we can do in that area. It's at one point, Campbell's was very involved with the Future Farmers of America, but I don't have all the answers to that, but it is definitely on my radar screen because we do need those next generations to embrace farming. And I actually think it's a wonderful time with all of the things that are going on with food, with the consumers, increased demand for organic and more authenticity, that it can be an incredibly worthwhile career for a family farmer.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to take one more from the audience over here, and then I'm reserving the last one for myself, and you know what I'm going to ask about.
Thank you. Great presentation. I am David Wofford with Meridian Group International. We do women's health and global supply chains. Had a question for you on ingredients and advertising. You see a lot of products low fat. We know today that sugar and salt are huge problems and fat is not. I'm curious whether you've taken a position on advertising and ingredients regarding fat versus sugar and salt.
We have, especially for children, we have taken the position, and it's in conjunction with CFBAI, which is a consortium of different industries that will only do responsible advertising to children, and that's our healthier products. In terms of salt, I personally worked on sodium reduction in our soup products. I scoured the world for lower sodium natural sea salt, and we definitely advertise healthy requests where we were able to get the sodium below the American Heart Association requirements. We have about 90 soups in that line, and they're delicious, and you can eat one a day for 3 months and have that variety. So we believe that by offering consumers choice where that's concerned, it's important, and we do advertise that. Because we think it's important to continue to create awareness.
Great. So now I get to ask my final question, and I have to say, as I mentioned, I so enjoyed reading your story. One reaction I had is I would have given quite a bit to be at the Thanksgiving Day table at one of those points during the year and just imagine what was going on. But I'm thinking more as a father and father of daughters. Every day I'm convinced that I'm pushing too hard and not hard enough. And I'm wondering, looking at this family and what came out of it.
Now we're doing therapy. You know something? This is really interesting that you're asking me this, because after that article broke, I had 3 piles of emails. One was from women, which we expected. The other was from fathers of daughters, because at the time, and that was 2007, you heard a lot about mother, daughter, father, son, but not a lot about the interaction of fathers and daughters. And then the third pile was, it's nice to read about executives who haven't been indicted, because it was in the era of Enron, right? Enron was going on at the time. But back to the father-daughter. My father said to us very young, I see a day where the world's going to open up for women, and I want you to be ready for it. He said, kids had too much time, too much money, and no responsibility. You're going to have no time, no money, and a lot of responsibility. We're like, thanks, Dad. That sounds like fun. But our dinner tables were like focus groups. He was, at the time, a VP of marketing for the telecommunications, AT&T, and he would bring home his new products and get our input on it. And we learned about call waiting and, princess phones with the push buttons in the headset. Now I'm dating myself. But we learned to love business. And he took us to work before Take Your Daughters to Work Day. I mean, it's really amazing when I think back on it. He was really hard on us because he knew we could do it. He set expectations and set goals, and he would always say, okay, when your goals are done, I'm going to add a couple more. An outing with my dad was going to the library. We had to read a book a week, and we could do a book report, written or oral, our choice. And we had job jars. And job jars, every Sunday, he'd put the family chores in them. My mother was there too, by the way, but he'd put the family chores in, and he would say, the family is a team, and everybody has to pull their weight on the team. The chores are your goals. You need to complete your goals by the end of the week. If you complete them, you get an allowance. That's pay for performance. And, it's like all these leadership lessons. And if you don't want to do the chore that you were assigned, feel free to barter the chore with one of your sisters, but it has to be completed by the end of the week. So this was growing up Sullivan. So I would say, the discipline, the high expectations, the high achievement actually was very good for us. And these are skills we use in our life. So, he's no longer with us now, but, he's with me every day.
So I'm not being hard enough, is what I just learned. Thank you.
Now your daughters are going to hate me.
Well, we are out of time, unfortunately. Okay. Thank you so much for your remarks. A great conversation. Please join me in thanking Denise.
Thank you, Eric.
It was really great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.